quite happy living my life in Tauranga.
Right.
And then one day, I just finished my masters. I had just had my ceremony for receiving my masters.
Mm-hmm.
And then a contact said, Caleb, would you be interested in moving to Malaysia for a job?
Right.
So I don't even know where Malaysia is. And so my parents fully supported me. They said, yeah, sure, go, enjoy.
Right. So your father, for example, was free-spirited kind of guy? Not quite.
No,
okay, fine.
definitely
But
not.
you're lucky enough to be...
He thought I was a little bit crazy, but he still loved me and
wonderful
said, sure,
attitude.
if that's what you want to go and do, okay, go and do that, whatever that is.
So,
I don't know where Malaysia is either, but...
Okay, let's go back then. The Malaysia and the Japan and then the...
And then so, I think with my time in Malaysia, I was very curious. You know, I started to see things were different. People lived differently. And
totally, yeah.
Yeah. I said, oh, there's a different way to life here. I don't necessarily agree with it, but it's different to New Zealand. And then you travel all these little countries for a week or 10 days, and that must just started something in me like, I want to experience more of this.
And this is only when you're 26?
27, 28, 29. Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
And then so, I wanted to experience it more and more and more. And then so...
Every country you visit, you learn something and you find interesting stuff and you meet people. There's nothing constraining you talk to anyone and they are friendly and you can talk and you can inquire anything and try this, try that.
Yeah. And all the food and the people and just the different religions and cultures and different architecture and different nature and different smells and all the senses. I found that really cool.
So you did it at the age 26, 27. I did it. Oh, okay. I did the 30, 31. Not so different, except I had the engineering background, the disciplined Japanese work in the actually nuclear field in Fukushima and all that. But then I went to business school and in the US. And this is not the 18 months, but the 3 months summertime MBA course. So I went to Europe and I had the same experience of and then
opening the mind.
I think I went Nepal later, but then at the time I went to Thailand and then Hong Kong and Japan and just going around the world, but only 3 months. But you did freely.
Yeah.
But that's kind of similar.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Time is, And so I did Japan, Hong Kong, Nepal, and then went into India. And so I started to travel around India, and I still wasn't really into meditation.
And then India was interesting. It's a crazy country. Why did you go? It's just a curiosity.
Curious, yeah.
And then you're living in a...
and I'm on... Sorry. When I was in... I met a French-Mexican dude while hiking in Nepal.
Right.
And he was really cool. And I said, I'm thinking about going to India. He goes, perfect. I've got some places that you should go. Here's a bit of a rough itinerary.
Yeah.
And so I said, oh, this sounds cool. There's nowhere else that I really want to go right now. So I'll follow his path.
In Kathmandu or the Nepal, you stayed there and you had some Buddhism or any influence? Not much. No. But there's a temple with the thighs.
I just thought it was all a bit silly.
Okay, fine. But in
walking past and moving the...
Right.
You know,
oh, yeah. So what's the point of it, right?
Stupid. You have to walk on the left side, I'll walk on the right side. And people bowing, why are you bowing?
But you still was curious to talk with people and why they have this, whatever the carpet and whatever the, work and the meaning of that.
I just thought it was all...
Kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
All right.
You're just confining yourself to more conditions.
Right.
Believe it. But little did I know.
That's right.
And then one day I walked into a hostel and I met a few other travellers and they were talking about craving and aversion and equanimity and I thought, oh, this is different. And the mind and suffering.
Yeah.
And so I just sat and listened to them talk for an hour. And then they talked for an hour. I don't think I asked many questions. I could understand a little bit.
No reference to go into it.
Yeah. And then they said, oh, we're going to meditate now. Oh, what's that? And they said, oh, sit down, observe the sensation of your breath going in and out. Oh, okay then.
Was this a Vipassana already or a different one?
This was just at the hostel.
Yeah, but the meditation...
Yep, Vipassana. One guy they had all done 1 or 2 courses. One dude is now a monk in Zen. He's
Where?
in France.
Okay.
Yep. So he's gone down that path, and some of the still. We've all divulged.
Which city were you there in India?
This is in Jaisalmer.
Where is
which
it?
is out the west, in Rajasthan.
Toward the Mumbai or?
Way a lot more north.
North, okay, yeah. So there's a course on the Center for Vipassana?
No, this is still at the hostel.
Right, but that's just conversation is what you're saying.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and then so we sat down on the rooftop of this hostel,
yeah.
And it was noisy and loud, and I was just thinking, the normal stuff that you do when you start to meditate, right? And then so I couldn't, so I went down into our little dorm and meditated for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever. And then they did an hour, and I just sat and watched them and thought, oh, okay then. And then we travelled together as a group for 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And every day they would sit for 2 hours.
Wow! So they do the discipline.
They were very
right,
disciplined.
Yeah.
And so, day 1 I might have sat for 10 minutes. Day 2 was 15 or 20. Day 3. And after 3 or 4 weeks, I was up to 45 minutes, an hour in the morning, and some in the evening. And I learned so much from them. And then we...
Oh, because they teach you some ideas behind and all that.
For sure.
Right. Yeah, okay.
And I thought, oh, this feels good, or this is nice, or interesting. And so, and went my separate way, and I kept practicing.
On your own?
On my own. And I had a good...
How long were you doing in those days?
How long would I meditate?
15 minutes or 30 minutes. Not too long, but you kept the practice of some kind.
And then I got up. One of them said, you should, and I could see they were practicing for 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, okay, maybe that's something that I can get to.
Yeah. But no rush or whatever.
Yeah. And, sometimes it would be 45 minutes and it would be easy.
Right.
And then the next one would be half an hour.
Right.
And stop, I don't care.
Yeah, right. Why am I doing it?
Yeah. Or I always knew that there'll always be a next time. I can always
Right, yeah. You're free.
Yeah, who cares? If I stop at half an hour.
But you kept those contacts, so you still communicate with.
Still talk to them.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
so you spent like a week with them or something?
3 or 4 weeks.
Oh,
and so then we went our separate ways.
And you have no idea where to go there, where you can go with the flow, basically.
Yeah.
All right.
Go wherever you want.
Yeah.
And then I met up with another one of them like a few weeks later.
Yeah.
And by that stage, I was at an hour in the morning and half an hour in the evening, and we just had a little room, a little house, in a village, and we just meditated for 10 days, like coming and going. Only 2 hours a day, but we would go and explore and swim and all that. But by that stage, and that was then he was like, maybe it's time for you to do a Vipassana Goenka course.
So these guys, they did it, but they also stay in India and go through another Vipassana course. They didn't have any plan, or what's the kind about?
Oh, no. They all had their own plans.
Yeah.
So one was just travelling in India for a month.
Right.
And then he was going to Korea for a 3-month Zen course.
Yeah.
Another one was travelling in India for maybe 2 or 3 months, and he was going to go to a centre for a month.
Vipassana.
Yeah. So they were all knowing what they were doing.
So this is not too long time ago. So
this was 2018.
So there must be like 20 or 30 centres in India, probably.
And I didn't do my first one, and my visa ran out.
Right.
And so then I was just like, I want to come back to India, but I'll fly really cheaply to Thailand. So I did Thailand and Laos, expecting to fly back to India.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to do a course in Myanmar.
Oh yeah, that's wonderful.
But then I couldn't get a visa, so I ended up doing my first course in Thailand, Vipassana Goenka.
Yeah.
And then for some reason I thought, I don't feel like going back to India.
Right.
I'm flying to Egypt.
Okay.
So I flew to Egypt after my course.
Right.
Same thing. Well, there's this place is nice here in Egypt, or there's this cool place. So I travelled there, and then I met another friend. And then I was just like, well, I want to go down to
why
more
not?
of Africa.
You have time
Come with
in
me.
Africa, right?
Yeah. So we went to Sudan and Tanzania, Kenya.
Flying or?
all on public transport.
Yeah,
on a
right.
bus or just with all the locals.
Yeah, I guessed that, but
the
yeah.
good stuff.
Yeah.
And then he went back to Germany, and then I said, "Oh, I'm staying." And
Where was it?
In
In
Kenya. He
oh,
in Kenya. He
right.
went back to Germany, and then so I kept going, and I went into.
But just briefly about I haven't been to Kenya. Just curiosity of the people, genuine sense of being local in the tribeman's mentality, close to nature. No, it's more busy stuff, city stuff, and all that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
So it's like a Kathmandu kind of thing. It's just
Definitely.
chaos.
Yeah, chaos.
Yeah.
African chaos. It's awesome.
Okay.
Especially in the bigger cities and towns, but you'd get into some small villages.
That's the thing.
And it was very quiet and peaceful and very simple way of life.
Because in India, I've traveled here and there, but often with business. So I found the way to Bodhgaya and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Wonderful, right? But one of the most memorable thing was it's crazy, but there's a town and they have the beer, whatever they make it in the traditional way. The guy, I had the hired guy, taxi guy, cheap, but traveling here and there. And the little village we passing by, and the people using the stick to cracking the grain on the ground, right? Of all the place and nothing. So look at this, wow. And then we passed, but I came back and I want to join and start do this and go to their house and sharing. And that was the best experience because when I left, I still have the picture somewhere. It's beautiful smile and everything, and they're friendly and all that. And you don't see any other place in India like that.
Yeah.
It's like 3,000 years ago that they're living the same kind of thing.
Yeah. That is very much like that in Ethiopia. It's very basic agriculture.
Yeah.
No machines.
Okay, let's keep on going. And then you went to Africa, and then.
Yeah. So then I went to Malawi and Mozambique, and I said, "Poof! I have had enough of Africa."
And which was how many months now?
Oh, this was maybe 5.5 months in Africa.
Yeah, right.
Which is pretty.
So tiring. Asia was like 6 months or something.
Oh, nah, less.
Less, okay.
Maybe 3 or 4 months.
And then the Africa, and then
I flew to Portugal.
Yeah.
For the European summer, so I did a bit of Portugal. Went over to Ireland to catch up with a friend. And then I went to England and Italy and, heaps of other countries. Went and served at a Vipassana course.
Oh, okay.
And this whole time I had been practicing nearly 2 hours a day. And that was...
So the first one was Thailand, and the second one didn't come. You just served there.
Served.
Yeah, okay, right.
I would kind of wanted to sit.
Yeah.
But it was summer in Europe and all the courses were booked. And I thought, I'm happy to serve.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good.
It was a really good experience. Yeah. Totally different.
Right.
Felt really nice. And then I was just like, well, getting in... Europe's boring.
Right.
I'm ready for some more adventure.
Okay.
So this French-Mexican dude who I met in Nepal said, well, if you're ever in Mexico, give me a call and come and meet me. Right. And then so I called him and I said, hey, I'm coming to Mexico. He goes, oh, wow, are you really? I said, yeah, I'll be there in a month. And he goes, oh, okay then. And then so he picked me up and...
About your age or something?
But, no, he's maybe 55.
Oh, wow, but he was nice. Wow, beautiful.
Really nice guy, him and his wife.
Yeah.
So I went and stayed with them for a month.
Right.
Learned some Spanish and just relaxed a little bit, and it was good. And then so I travelled in Mexico for 2 months. Mm-hmm. Went to Cuba for 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. And then I flew to Colombia.
Oh, wow.
And then I went from Colombia all the way down Ecuador, Galapagos.
Yeah. Wow.
And then made my way all the way down to...
the Chile
and Argentina. Yeah. Nearly at the very bottom, and then COVID.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, and then so I came back to New Zealand.
Wow.
And that was 18, 19 months.
So we're only talking about the last 3 years or something.
Yeah.
Wow, you had the life's experience.
Probably 4 years. It's probably 4 years, nearly to the day.
Wow.
4 years in September. So my last 4 years have been...
Okay, So I don't need to talk about my story, which is kind of my own passage, but it's interesting. Compare, we can do some other session probably, but going through this back to the meditation and your 4 courses. So first, and then the French or whatever, second serving, and then the third, second, third, fourth was where?
Here in New Zealand.
With the guy, I met him, I forgot,
No.
assistant teacher, who, anyway, up north of Auckland, right?
Yeah. That's where I went. So after lockdown finished, and we were, what was it, July last year?
So you kept on bomb then?
And then in July last year, I went and did my second course.
Right.
And then I served 2 courses.
Yeah.
And then we had that lockdown.
Yeah.
And I stayed at the centre.
Yeah.
4, 5, 6 hours of meditating a day.
Yeah.
And then we came out, and then I did another course.
Right.
And then I had a few months break.
Right.
Came home to my family and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I went back and did my 4th course.
So it's within 1 year kind of period, 1 year and a half or some period, right?
Within 2 years, I did 4 courses.
Yeah, right. Wow. That was fairly intense.
I would do more. I would go and...
You're kidding me.
I would do heaps more, yeah. But then I had to get a job.
Okay, let's go to that. Let's forget about the job. But you're heaps more, because in my case, I did dozen perhaps.
Yeah.
Every year.
1 a year.
Yeah.
Good.
And I had that's another story, but I'm curious. So why heaps more? What is, because you're curious about knowing about yourself and deeper into it, what causes what and what.
So I asked myself this question a few days ago. Why do I meditate?
Okay.
And I couldn't really give me a definitive answer other than it feels like it's the right thing to do.
When did you start to feel like it? I mean, it's already in there to continue 2nd, 3rd, and 4th course. And each is enforcing more of that
yes,
thinking.
Yes. So it's like a snowball. It just keeps multiplying.
So just briefly, my story is not interesting for me, but I have to share with you so that the reference point of view. I didn't get to that discussion of more and more. I hope I'm not influencing anything, because okay. Just for the sake of the reference. So I did the 12 courses. My first experience was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And my thought is that there's something tremendously amazing thing happened. I couldn't stand, and it lasted 10 days or something.
Okay.
Right.
After the course?
Yeah, I kept on going, and it's the...
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's... what is this? And the teacher doesn't tell you anything.
Yeah.
Just keep on this. But from my background in Zen and all the stuff, that I know something about Satori, Kensho, Zen, and the relationship. But there's not quite clear much to this unspeakable experience of what happened. Except I remember the snail, Mara, and the danger, attraction. And I get attracted in a way. And also I knew if I stop it, I'm going to deteriorate. I don't know why, but I knew it, because it creeped up to get to the stage of having that. Now I have the release of it.
Yeah.
Why do I bundle up with all the nonsense that can come with it? So I hate it. I just can't think of going back to where this binding situation and going to the pain again, because it was such a pain to go through that. So there's no chance. But at the same time, the snail Mara, interest and the desire, the experience. So I went back, but at the same time, my attitude is so that there's a difference of my attitude, which was basically not to lose it instead of going deeper, like you said, because that was such a height of my experience kind of thing. True. So I looked for it the next time, and I just want to keep on. So that's not the right way to pursue, probably. But basically, I had the thought, even the 2 days per day, I thought, no, I'm not going to do it, because if I start to do it 2 hours and then start to deteriorate, that would damage my ego. And I know I may not sustain it, and that's a stupid thinking. Yeah. But I had the work and other things to do, and considering all the constraint or the opportunity or lack of opportunity or openness or confinement of the condition, and I was. Oh yeah, that's right. The other thing is that experience in your case was 28 or 29. In my case was 52.
True.
So that's the difference of. By that time I had accumulated idea that Zen and all that stuff, but not quite to the point. And the Goenka and all that fit totally. I've never done any other except in some of Zen practices. So and then I had this amazing experience. So that is, I later checked like Eckhart Tolle, his experience and mine. There's some similarity of identity and shifting and jumping in, and then realizing something happens and you can explain it. Yeah. And in his case, he did it at 29 years old, which is perhaps your age, right? In somewhere. And he couldn't explain. For 7 years, he studied and figured out on his own teaching. And so he started to create his own formula or the structure or explanation of what it means, and maybe referring to Zen and Christianity and Meister Eckhart and the Tao Te Ching and all that. Because I was doing those first before Vipassana, and then I'm reconstructing, fitting everything together to make sense, so that I was so curious about the sutras and all that from a younger days. This is a wonderful field because there's so much interesting stuff I don't understand, but
very intellectual.
Yeah, this is totally amazing that I want, if I get into this in the later year of my life, I can just spend full my time doing this because this is so interesting I don't understand. So it's a big challenge. So those are the background, contrasting to age and the interest or the continuation, the desire or the setting and the confinement and all that kind of stuff.
I think for me, when I reflect on my little journey,
right,
I was very... not religious.
Right.
Okay, so I didn't have any...
a preconceived notion or anything.
No, and I didn't really know what enlightenment was.
Right.
I remember...
No curiosity or anything?
Not really. I just remember sitting down on my first course and going, I don't care about enlightenment. I just want to be happy.
Right.
And I look back at that now and go... How naive was I? That was amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, cool.
There's so many entrances there.
Yeah.
You had the one entrance, I have different entrance of,
And so I think another contributing factor to where I am now with my practice is that I probably got taught a very little bit at the start with good people. Right. And that built. And I could really compare how that practice made me kind of in the day. I would practice and then I would be in the real world.
Yeah.
And I could really compare rather than just doing a course, being hit with it. And they had really good routines and they had good discipline in their practice. And I think that had an effect on me. Yeah. And I'm like that naturally. Yeah. I'm quite disciplined.
And the sports and the...
I will go out and do exercise every day and I'll have a good routine. I'm quite disciplined and it's not hard for me.
Right.
So that kind of contributes as well. And then from doing my first course, I said to myself, this is a good start. I'm still skeptical about the practice enough, but also curious enough and thinking enough that it works. That I'm going to give it 6 months. I'm going to practice like he says, and let's see what happens.
Right.
And then I think I was also fortunate that I was just travelling.
Right.
I didn't have any time pressures or constraints.
Like
work or family or anything like that. So if I wanted to wake up and meditate, I just did that.
Right.
And whenever I did it, that's what's most important. There was some challenges during the day of travel. Like being in shitty environments. And
remind me, your first bang of the whole body experience was the first or the second course?
First course.
First course. So you had that sensation or the...
Yeah.
But that also not that much.
Not really, no. Like I had enough education that don't go and crave it. Good. That is the biggest problem.
So the people you met and all that, and the teacher will tell you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not necessarily about banga.
Yeah.
But as soon as you start craving, then you're gone in the wrong direction.
Right. Yeah.
And then
that's
so
right.
I could kind of Don't go and start chasing these pleasant sensations. Because that's in the wrong direction.
That's right. Yeah.
And so, after 6 months, even after a couple of months, I knew that this was me. Like, I can feel the effect that it is having on me. So I will just keep continuing.
Right. But to the level of doing those 3 additional courses, in the last 2 years or something, well, 2 years and 3, it's like 2 years, twice 2 years. It's about the same, like once a year. Yeah, it's not that different, but it sounded like very...
So in the space of 6 months, I did 3 courses.
Yeah, that's right. So that was kind of...
like a good push.
So that interested me.
Sit in the sun.
That interested me because you were really interested to do that.
Yeah.
So every course is kind of adding or deepening, and you see the difference of the affect or the internal or awareness of the same course. So you hear the same stuff, so same stories, and you get into the...
Yeah, and I served at the centre I stayed at the centre for 3 months, and I could just feel it was just a completely different environment. It was really strong for me. I remember going backwards a little bit, sitting after my first course, I called my parents because I said, I'm going to go and do a meditation course. And they're like, what is that? And then after the course finished, I tried to explain to them what had happened. And they're like, okay. And then I was, it would have been about not quite a year. I'd been travelling for maybe 9 months. And I met up with my parents in Europe. They were doing a bit of a holiday. And my dad said to me, so Caleb, what are you doing? I said, what do you mean? He goes, you're just travelling, but what are you doing? What is the point of this? Where are you going? He is very...
It's like my father,
very much. Yeah. Exactly the same. I said, I don't know.
There's something telling you that this is...
Yeah, just my intuition or whatever. Yeah. I'm curious. I'm enjoying myself. Probably a good time in my life to do this. You know, maybe later on is a bit more, family or whatever. You don't know. And he said, I'm not judging you, not too much anyway. I am judging you a little bit, but that's just me and the way I am. He said, I still care for you and all that good stuff. He goes, I just don't understand.
Yeah, right.
Keep doing whatever you want.
Good.
But I just can't understand you. I understand it.
You tried to share a little bit or not?
For sure.
You did, right.
Yeah, we talked about it, me, my mum and dad, together. My mum was like, do what you want, it's okay.
She was like that?
Yeah, for sure. She goes, I would never do this in my life. And I don't want to do what
you can do it.
But, go ahead. It's good for you, probably.
Right. Yeah.
And, it's not what you're doing now, but it was different to your upbringing, I can just relate to your dad saying, no, don't go to New Zealand, and you respecting him.
Yeah.
But just that, what are you doing? And that is kind of set a seed in me as in, there's more than one way to live life.
Good. That's beautiful.
And it's, if someone else is doing a different way of life, that's also okay.
Sure.
Don't judge them for that. And I would have, in the past, I am judgmental. I would have judged people for doing this.
But maybe the sports background and teaching, and some may fit and may not fit and go through the discipline approach of learning. There may be some similarity because you cannot force them to be good at anything unless they're really... I think there's like art and the sports exercise has some similarity of learning the mastery of a skill unless you're interested and exploring and curious.
Yep, I agree.
And there's a lot of discipline that requires to be like that. So you may have had those background.
Yeah, strong determination. And I remember my professor at university when I was doing my masters. He said, just randomly one day, he's someone who I hold with a lot of respect. He said, Caleb, what I admire about you is your diligence. I said, oh, thank you. I said, I don't know what diligence is. I didn't say that to him.
Yeah.
And then when I finished up with him, I went and Googled diligence.
Yeah.
And okay, this is what diligence is.
Yeah, my word I used is kind of similar, is that, I don't know, oh yeah, that's the one. The Vipassana first course triggered me to do certain things in my life to change in this way and that way. I may talk about it. I decided this is so-and-so, and I'm going to do this way. I call it life profile. I just balance out my life, the work and the hobby and the health and the relationship and money. And then the number one is to be truthful. But the word came later, but I added be sincere and truthful.
Sincere.
Yeah, that's
different.
Yeah, explain to me how you interpret that.
Sincere.
Sincere and truthful.
Sincere and truthful are different.
Yeah, there's a
same but different.
Yeah, same. Yeah. There's a sincerity of opening.
Yes.
And be truthful.
Yeah. They go very nicely together.
So even you go to my bathroom, and there's a saying and there's a mirror looking at myself when you sit there.
Very
be
good.
sincere. So that's the discipline from that time, 2000, when I had the experience. And this, I don't know, it just popped up, and I still do it every 3 months or whatever to monitor. And there's even just, I'm an engineering background, so there's a rating for each item. What's the importance of it? Number 10 is be sincere and truthful. And that's maybe go 6 or 7, right? And then the satisfaction levels, another thing. The importance of what and how satisfied I am. So the be sincere and truthful is usually like a 8.5 or 9 or 9, depending upon the situation.
So they're your values?
My subjective view of what's important in life. And definitely, it's kind of... I can see myself that the first one is the inner dimension. The rest is the external dimension of life. First one is to be sincere and truthful, how I'm doing it. And the rest is the work, hobby, having fun. And then the relationship, and the health, and the finance. And the finance is usually a very small number there compared to other. I don't want to put too much into it.
The importance of that to you, or
so,
how you are doing, you rate yourself.
So importance rating of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
And the next column is the satisfaction level of 1 to 10.
Of how that has been for you in the last 3 months.
Right. For only looking at that, forget about the rest, how I'm into this.
Interesting. That sounds good.
And then each of them I can study, a little comment, and there's the overall summary. So what? What you're learning, or what your problem you have, or what is the plan for the next level. So it's a Shila Samadhi Panya.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So the right conduct, and do you want to do it? And then how balanced I am, then check myself in the mirror and see, okay, this...
on the toilet or
this is on the desk, and it's 20 years of those going on every 3 months. And I have the diagrams, but basically it's very simple at the end.
That's awesome.
But it's totally awesome because you navigate your life, you have to do something like that. You need a map and a chart and gyroscope to know where you are and how you're doing it. And that kept me going. I mean, I never stopped doing it every 3 months. You know, when something especially goes in the wrong direction, I have to check and see how it is. And you reflect back and how. So I have the history of that. I don't need to go back. It's not necessary because now what I'm doing and what can be done. But bottom line of it is that this is a navigation of the course of like a sailing this way and this way, tuck, and something start change and you go that direction. It's okay. But overall, I'd be happy that I haven't fallen into the difficulty. And the situation in my case is that that's one of the approach. And then the other one I noticed was that when there's a problem, you know where to go, it can happen. It's not a big thing, but when I was diagnosed as I have a pre-diabetic, my life had to change. I suffered kind of day and a half because 80% of the place in the supermarket I shouldn't go. Theoretically, I studied in internet everything I can think about. So I came up with a lifestyle change, everything. And because of Vipassana, I'm used to the vegetarian food or simple food and all that. Oh, this is a good thing, I can do it, right?
Yeah.
And it turned out to be a great thing that I changed the whole thing, and I'm not bothered at all. And just like a monk life in terms of food. and then the diabetes level went down to normal almost, right?
Wow.
And on top of it, I had higher blood pressure. It went to normal. So there's a side benefit you don't notice, but if you have certain discipline, practice it, and measure it, monitor it, and do each step of the way and learn and accumulate and process it in the right way, I think that had helped me to lead my life according to that principle or the basics of the Vipassana, along with the other things that I can talk about the Zen and other angles to that.
It's fascinating how it all comes together to shape you and direct you and make you become a better person. That's what it is at the end of the day, isn't it?
Right, and it's not related to others. That you have to look at yourself in the mirror.
Yes.
And you don't compare who is better, me or not, but it's a comparative. It may be helpful in a way to learn something, picking here and then the reference, but each person has its own background, the strengths, weakness, habitual pattern, and so forth, and we have to deal with that, not to believe in others and just jump into it, but have some level of self-managing process of it.
And the reflection is really important.
That's the mechanism. So that was my work-related thing I've done all my life, pretty much, and my book written and all that. So there's a connection, and I noticed everything is merging together with a discipline. Or diligence, whatever.
Goenka says, what is it? Faith is like having legs, and wisdom or dedication is like the eyes. Or is it the other way around? It's the other way around. You can have the legs, but if you can't see the path, you'll
Which way to go?
You don't know if you're on the path or off the path.
Right.
If you've stepped off it or stepped on it. But if you don't have the dedication and only the wisdom, such as the eyes, you can look at the path and say, what a wonderful path. Oh, this path is amazing. Look, there is the path. But if you don't do the work, you will never progress down the path.
Right.
So they need to go together and hand in hand. And I see, my time at the centre, 3 months, not long, but so many people that I come across that are meditators that have done a Vipassana course, 1, 2, 3, they all say, they say, oh, do you continue your practice? I said, yeah, 2 hours a day, every day. They go, well, that's amazing. I do my course, or maybe the next month I practice, and then I stop, and then a year goes by and I don't do any practice. I said, well, what's the point? You need to do your practice.
Yeah.
And about your mirror idea, I just read a book about an American Navy SEAL. Very tough upbringing.
Yeah.
And but very strong. He developed a very strong mind and determination. And he came up with the accountability mirror. So he would look himself in the mirror with post-it notes.
Yeah, right.
Are you being honest, truthful, and sincere? Are you being the best person you can be?
Yeah.
And look at himself in the mirror.
Similar.
Exactly the same. If you are, you can look at yourself in the mirror, can't you? But if you're not, it could be quite hard to look at yourself in the mirror and be truthful to yourself.
Yeah.
And so and I just finished this book, and now that you have said it, it's really good to look in a mirror.
Here's another one. I don't want to jump off to by thinking, but I have to say because I'm curious. There's a 4 wisdom, they call it in Japan. It's not as commonly noticed in the web and all that I check. And the 4 of them, one of them is called the literal translation in Japanese to English, big, round, mirror, wisdom. Big round, you cannot find it because it's just a bit
I'm going to record you.
Okay.
I need to find my recorder.
You have the voice memo or something?
There you go.
Okay, the first of 4. Actually, I have this on the YouTube that I posted. Nobody watches. I don't care. But they have to, because you have the reason on why I'm doing it. It's like a journal. So one is this life profile. There's a moment of the wisdom, whatever pops up according to the situation I'm in. So I try to pick up and to confirm and clarify, writing the journal on all that kind of stuff. Became a habit because it was related to the discipline that I emphasize in the company. each company has many companies. People have their own area of responsibility, customer supply, mission, KPI, project, and the reflection of going through the PDCA plan to check act is the Shira Samadhi Panya for their own area.
Yeah.
So that's the idea. So related to that, that's one side of the story. But back to the for wisdom, anyway, is that the first one is the large, round mirror wisdom. I don't know if there's any ranking, but that's the one that related. And the next one is fairly, it's called that Myokan Satsuchi, wondrous observation, wondrous event observing wisdom.
Wonderful.
Wonderful or wondrous.
Wondrous event observing.
Meaning that all the flowers or the the situation happening in life, there's a miracle of that happening, and you start to notice more and more. So that's another one. So first was the mirror, then the next one is this miracle finding, in a way. The third one is Byodo Shochi. The third one is the equality. Byodo is the quality wisdom. So everything is equal, common, have the same Buddha nature, let's call it, to make it simple. So there's no division, there's no boundary. You and me are the same. The bird, all of that. It may be difficult, but in a way it's like a sense of, if you call it the mushin, of no mind or emptiness, that when everything is, but it's still there. So Buddha nature is what I think may pop up. That is to point that everybody has that, some sense or the core being there that is apparent, and you can feel it. So it's related to that second one, to realize that, but that's also related to the different level of the wisdom of the equality. Everybody, nothing is unique. Everybody has the same quality, so to speak. I don't know if I'm explaining well.
Yeah, no,
you can try to interpret and say back to me what you think about it. The fourth one is the Joshosachi, which is becoming as you do it and you accomplish or something. So you're not forcing, it's the manifestation of Dhamma, making things to happen. So it's not nature's way, you're following it, and that's the way of the wisdom pop up. From the unconscious, conscious kind of thing, but also in your activity of what to do, where to go, which way to go, finding, and the things without your pushing. And there's another word, those are somewhat related to Zen, but also fundamental of Buddhism. And the fourth one, I may be able to come up with some other expression. Without purpose, purpose without purpose kind of thing. It's a paradox. All sorts of paradoxes everywhere. Like the Byodo, the equality is there. There's a division, but the equality are the same. So that's a paradox. And the last one was paradox of without doing anything you accomplish. So that's a paradox, right? And the Myokan Satsuchi. And the first one, the mirror, is also the paradox of the two dimensions of who you are, the mind dimension, and the mirror of the mind is there from the being point of view, that if you are caught up in there, you don't see anything. You have to relate to what's going on inside of you. So it's just a paradox, because you're in there, you don't see it. But how do you see it? You cannot explain, because you have to experience wisdom, this popping up. Those are the four things. And why I'm talking about it now, I forgot about it. But I think you're talking about the mirror. That's why I triggered to this. Yeah. So,
can you write that down for me?
Sure. Actually, I've written down somewhere already, and I'll be happy to do it for you.
And is it in English or Japanese? You have it written down.
In Japanese.
Oh yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, and then there's down below I put some English translation for each of them. So
that would be really nice.
There's a YouTube on that one too, because. Nobody's saying much about it, but it may be an indication of how we can check, like a check and balance situation, to see how much of a. So when I look at the Eckhart Tolle talking about lots of stuff, I know he has studied and picking up, but he put his word without using dogma and that sentences coming from here and there in a very easy to understand manner, but just little hints.
Subtle.
Yeah, from this area you can see this, from this Zen expression, this is the case, from the Tao Te Ching, it's like this in Christianity, this word is interpreted this way.
It's amazing. Have you heard of George Lucas?
Yeah.
The Power. What about Joseph Campbell?
Yeah, totally.
The Power of Myth.
Oh yeah, that's wonderful.
It's a good book, isn't it?
Right.
I read that just a couple of months ago, and I was fascinated how there was so many different religions and cultures, and all just the same, nearly, isn't it?
So that's what I feel too. How I find the interest of this, and that goes back to this is a deep and interesting field of so many sutras, and I read many sutras.
Yeah. And
it's totally amazing in relation to the Banga and the 10 steps of the progress and the Jugyu 10 steps of the cow herding picture. There's a Zen expression. There are different ways of explaining the same thing in a different manner. And many people are spending so much time and energy and life and everything into it.
Yeah.
So they are all there. And if we can connect and synthesize and live and be able to, and that's why I think, as far as I can tell, Eckhart Tolle seems to be the most interesting guy. And there's a Stillness Speaks. Do you know that book?
No.
But that's interesting.
Oh wait, Stillness Speaks. No.
Okay, it's a Stillness Speaks is the book he wrote, but there's a video that he's talking himself into the book, and there's a sentence and emptiness of the silence, and then another sentence and emptiness, and for the 2 hours or some such thing, and each of those has a deep meaning. And I'm just amazed at how he does it. So every now and then, some thought pops up, and I'm a little bit disturbed or something. I listen to just the one phrase or something.
It's good when you can do that, isn't it?
So in my case, I guess this is somewhat the engineering approach of the reference in the collection and clarification and the synthesization to see. And there's an influence from Nakayama, who is the physicist and into Zen a lot. And he talks about the mechanism of enlightenment and all that stuff. And so that there's an influence from the engineering part of the character that I've got, which may be maybe a little too heavy compared to a bodhisattva approach, which is like a dana and compassion and all that. So,
but it's nice that you can have an approach or a system that is, that might suit the mechanical.
Check and balance kind of thing.
Balance. Yeah, because not everybody is into the bodhisattva way. If you give it to some check and balance type people, then they can relate to it and understand it and would get them into it, which is good, isn't it?
So one of the projects that I have been working on, there's a big flow chart and everything to put those things together. I have 3 books in English I've written, and this is a 4th one I was thinking, but I tried twice before and I failed because it's too complex and too difficult, like this paradoxical expression and this and that. And I'm at the stage, I tried that it could be wonderful, and I went all through to get to this point, but still, and then I think I may be coming of a different angle to do it, instead of the whole thing in the structure, which I think is helpful, because it helps me if I can do that. And I'm getting lots of benefit in going through that. Even today I was writing, adding, the flow, and this is missing here, and then it should be there, kind of thing. So it's my own sake I'm doing it, but hopefully I was thinking of publishing it because I met this journalist who did the summary of my life that was in the article in the local, and she and I talked and we discussed this idea. So that's one. But now, this morning I came up different way. Instead of all holistic, the whole compendium kind of thing, maybe just hitting some of those phrases and summarizing in a different way.
Was the journalist here from Taiwan?
Yeah, she's here.
Cool.
It's handy, and we just happened to meet in the 2 months ago in the same place at Te Moata.
Ah, okay then.
And she came here to interview me, and that's what happened. And she did a good job. And I thought, well, maybe I should try.
It's amazing who you can meet.
Well, those triggering events, some of the uncovered thing, and you stimulate it, and then start to build up some energy. If in the right direction, it may lead something.
Yeah, definitely. All good stuff.
So that's where I am basically, and this conversation has been very interesting to know where you are. And I think I mentioned about the Zen angle a little bit, and not to influence too much, but as a reference point type of thing. And the lady we met at the time,
what was her name?
Latsara.
Latsara.
Actually, I met her yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, this is her book. She's into the Zen.
Oh, yeah.
So she left it, and there's another book. So
did she come over here to Taiwan?
Yeah, she came, and
cool.
yeah, so it was fun because she is so dedicated in that direction.
Is she?
Yeah, for 15 years or something.
Yeah, she said she started when she was like 20.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, 15 is a different thing. Yeah, 20 years back in London, I think yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's why I remember that she spent time, and she liked the structure and the discipline and all that. So that is another discovery of meeting someone right there.
Yeah. Hey, you had not seen her before?
First time, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
I the same thing.
I like when you go to a place like that and you meet similar people but different. You can
but coming from a different angle with different view, and then you can see. But there's matching point here and there.
Yeah. Similarities enough that you can connect. Sometimes you go to places and everyone's all the same, and it's a bit.
Right.
It's nice to be.
So maybe from your point of view, if I get any advice or suggestion or interest or question from your point of view, what I have been and how it came to where I am, do you have any?
Me about you?
Yeah, I'm thinking of did you look at this or what about this or any of those? Any question you may have with the Zen or any sutras that I looked at, because I can share, later continue the discussion. And unfortunately, many of the interesting stuff is in Japanese because it was easier, and many of them are not in English.
Oh wow!
So, but today I picked up something, and I posted on one of the pages that I run, just for my sake. But that was another example. This is about Konosuke Matsushita, who is a managing business person, Panasonic. But I see him getting the whole point without going through this Zen stuff or anything. Yeah. And if you read just few of them, I just hit like this, and I wrote this 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Because I was checking in many angles. Those are the days I did that. And I read again, and I thought, wow, this is well written. And then I'm looking at myself, at the time, and me myself now. And I don't know if I have advanced or anything, but I'm happy that I realized that. But the life keep on going, and there are things happen, and therefore I'm back again, and the thought pops up because that was related to some idea that I had, and I want to see this angle of what he said on that, or something like that. And the title of the book, he written many books, but was about the Sunao, the meek mind or calm and quiet mind. and he's talking about the wisdom generation process, kind of similar to the Vipassana way. And then he was talking about the mission in life, so to speak, or the will or the desire to move in your future. I'm not explaining well, but that's the context that I had some thought I was figuring out, and he was talking about the kokorozashi, the will, the direction, and what was the other one? We need to have that. Desire sounds a little bit odd, but wish, like the case of Dhamma or the Goenka or enlightenment, whatever that is. And that is a guiding principle that we need to have. Was the simple basic point, but I was questioning about my life and the direction, which I have been somewhat managing, but still, should I go to this book or how do I do it? There's all the questions that pops up, and then what is the aligning or the guiding principle that I have? And if you're clear of that, that's the most important, was his point. And I guess I was reflecting on the discussion of the acceptance. Acceptance often is digesting the situation and not argue, but go internally, if I may say so. Usually we have your own constraint and the, your ego, stiffness and the missing linkage, and that's the orientation. But at certain point, when you Eight Noble Path, you explain well, know well, and steps of those, you can interact with people with certain outward movement connected to the inside situation. So don't just go into the cave or into your internal thing. When it's needed, it's okay to express in some way. And I was thinking in one event, somewhat business related, and I had some thought I want to say, but I didn't say it because I thought I'll take care of it myself. But that's the moment that triggered me to think maybe I could have said something, and that was the little bit of a, how do you call it, doubting, unclear situation. So often this inner dimension goes deeper, but we are still living in a society. Therefore, some people are more well versed, and Eckhart Tolle does a good way that he can. It's not manipulating, but sharing the navigate into the direction. And if you have the capability of doing it, certainly. But he built up from age 29 to 70 some years old to get to the level of check and balance and communicating and sharing and getting the feedback and aligning to write a book and then go to this. So everybody's different. But still, subjectively, you can have your own, direction with the will. And that's what I felt that you talked to me about young days and freedom and which way to go. And you listened to it and started, and then found this passage into this Vipassana and into like 4 courses and the 9 days up there. Wow! So it's, this comparison is in a way is interesting. And I was doing the same thing with... It's a different name as well. Because she and I was talking with her about her journey and my journey. It was kind of like a reflecting the mirror with each other. Wow. So that was sharing of interesting dimension that we can have. So internally we can do it, but we can also externally.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think when you start to realize that your internal world is not always, when you can share and connect with someone about similar paths, it makes you feel connected.
Yeah.
And you're not alone.
Yeah, I think
that we are all the same as well.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Different dimension, different background, different habitual pattern, but still there's something common which called Dhamma or whatever, if we notice it. And the glimpse of that is here and there, like a sparkling stuff. And then if we can connect ourselves in a life and be able to communicate that way.
Yes. That's empowering, isn't it?
It is totally empowering, yeah.
Humans are social creatures.
That's the Sangha idea, right? The Sangha is a group of people who can go with the passage, whether it's the Dharma passage or the Buddha passage or the spiritual passage, whatever you call it. And that's the kind of thing about the current turbulence and all that issue that we have and how to navigate as a society, but individually too. So.
And I guess that's when you have more peace and happiness, is when you have a community that have their internal worlds but are all connected, and they can share and experience and do everything together. Yeah. But when everybody has their internal world and is not relating to everybody in a good way, that's when you can have...
Right.
I think it's easy to go, though, just go internally, and just...
Every now and then, too.
Yeah. And for some people, become more of a recluse.
Meaning...
more introverted.
Yeah, that's...
I think it's quite easy, because if you don't know how to practice relating to other people...
Yeah.
And it's quite simple and easy and peaceful. You're just with your own ideas and your own time.
I thought that maybe Buddha or Eckhart Tolle, and for us too, to a degree, more introvert. Curiosity inside.
Oh, for sure, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, we won't do it.
No.
Like me, this is interesting. It's crazy, and I don't understand it, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
So that there are certain characteristics that comes with it. But we all have that somewhere down deep. So
I guess if some people don't want to do that, then they're maybe ignorant to themselves, or ignorant or not wanting to know because they may be scared, or how some people aren't they're always wanting to project outwards rather than come in.
This one is also this morning I was checking. Yesterday I found that Jack Ma and Elon Musk, Jack Ma is the Alibaba, and very interesting guy. I've been following him, and he went into some trouble with the government.
Yeah.
But Elon Musk, and they had the discussion 2018, and they had a difference in opinion.
Yeah.
And that was interesting because I can listen to them, and one of the points of Elon Musk was him talking about his desire, and then Jack Ma Alibaba is talking about 200 years, not the 1,000 years. Elon Musk thinks extra planet and moving out of Japan because there's a possibility of external event hitting, something happens, or internally we go crazy and we may have to find some other place.
Yeah.
And of all the 4 million or 4 billion years of this, we have only 1,000. It's just a tiny bit, and we should be able to afford 1% of the resources for that purpose or something.
Yeah.
And he's just willing to do it, and he go crazy because he cannot do it, but he's had the willingness that's important. And sometimes he said, I hate, I don't know why I do this, but I'm in this position, but that's what he does, all the pain and all that. And Alibaba, Jack Ma has his own way of doing things, and they're different, but I guess it may be okay for each of them to have that desire or passion and something, and then explore, and then exchange ideas.
Yeah, and help and grow. For sure. I don't